welcome to Live from Billy's Place. This is my 5th installment, segment, show, call it what you like. And it's great to be here. I'm excited. I've got a great show lined up for you. Great songs, great stories. And welcome to the new folks that are here for the first time. And welcome back to the return visitors. I'm really happy that you're here. This has been really a lot of fun for me, and I hope to continue to do it with your support. And while we're talking, would you just hit that share button so that it'll go out to all your friends and their friends, and it'll grow and grow exponentially. Secondly, if you like what I've been doing, if you like my, little show that I do every week, you could send in your support by hitting that PayPal button or the new VENMO button I put up there, and that would be fantastic. A portion of the proceeds will benefit the Recording Academy MusiCares program, which helps musicians in times of need such as this that we're experiencing now. That would be great. Well, I got a lot of show to do, so let's get right into it. I always like to start my show with a little levity and hopefully some humor too. So there's this guy, and he wants to join a monastery, so he does. He's got to take a vow of silence, but every year he gets to say one thing to the head monk. The head monk, Thelonious Monk, I believe was his name. Anyway, after the first year, he goes into the office and says to the head monk, "Bed hard," and leaves. Okay? Second year goes by, he goes in to the office and says to the head monk, "Food bad." And the headmaster, the head monk goes, okay. Third year he comes back and says, "I quit." And the head monk says, "Well, I'm not surprised. You've been complaining ever since you got here." So there. Anyway, I always like to start off my show with this song I wrote a bunch of years ago, and it goes like this. Hello, my friends. It's good to see you again. I guess it's been a few years since I've been away. But I'm happy to say I'm doing okay myself. I can dig what's happening. And every day there is something new. And hey, good things are coming my way. So tell me how you've been. There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we laugh and say, hey, hey, man, you're okay. Let's take it nice and easy now. Well, it's a brand new year. Lots of things are happening, and hey, good things are coming my way. Tell me how you've been. There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we laugh and say, hey, 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 life, okay. Let's take it nice and easy now. Let's get on back to that groove. Stick around for a couple of days, 'cause hey, good things are coming my way. Good things are coming my way. My way. My way. My way. Every day. All right. Good things are coming my way, and I hope they're coming your way too. I sincerely mean that. And I'm calling this episode The Party Show because it's all about parties I've been to. Starting with my Hinsche family parties in Manila, where I was born. And my folks had great parties for my sister Annie and I, and there was always, a lot of the neighborhood kids and our relatives and their, costumes and, cowboys and Indians and all kinds of fantastic, birthday cakes and just fantastic. We took home movies, and I enjoy them to this day. In fact, I did a film called Home Movies, in which you could see some of the Hinsche and Wilson home movies from the Audrey Wilson collection. Anyway, when we moved to Beverly Hills, we lived on Smithwood, which was south of Wilshire. It was like called like Beverwill, where Beverly and Wilshire sort of met, and we lived on Smithwood there for a year or so. And our birthdays, we'd have a clown. Our folks would, rent a clown to come by, and we'd chase him around the yard. And this is like 5-6 years old. And then we moved to the flats, the heart of Beverly Hills, 722 North Foothill Road. And we still have clowns, but sometimes it'd be a clown who was also a magician. So he'd be blowing up balloons, and we just had a wonderful childhood in that way. Great parties. And I remember our friends the Roaches, Jeannie, Kathy, Maria Roach. They went to school with us at Beverly Hills Catholic Good Shepherd, and they had a great party once. They screened Babes in Toyland in their projection room. Their dad was Hal Roach, who was the producer of the Little Rascals and Laurel and Hardy series. And so pretty cool to see a movie in someone's home. But it was actually kind of scary. There was a very scary segment of that film, Babes in Toyland, that if you know the film I'm talking about, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, when Dino, Desi, and I started to get better at what we did and more proficient and more professional, if you will, we started getting hired to play local parties around town. And I think the very first party we played at was for the actor Rory Calhoun. His daughter was having a birthday party. And the Calhouns lived on the 900 block of Roxbury, right near Sunset, which was just one block away from where Desi lived with his mom, Lucille Ball, and very conveniently located for all of us. And we only knew a couple of songs, and I remember we got $20 for the show, for the gig. And I remember thinking, how are we going to split this 3 ways evenly? Anyway, it was fun times. And our buddy John Provost was there, I remember. If you recall the TV series Lassie, John played Timmy, the young boy who was friends with Lassie. And John, if you're watching, hello, welcome. And anyway, we did that party. It was one of the very first ones. We had a classmate named Noelle, I remember, and she rented this steamboat at the Marina del Rey, like a paddle boat. And we never left the dock, but it was used as a party boat. And for some reason, Dino wasn't there at that gig. I know because I saw footage of it. Somebody on Facebook has footage of us. I think the earliest footage that I know of, well, not quite Dino, Desi, and Billy, but Desi and Billy playing at this party. No audio, but still, we were very young, and Desi's sister Lucy was there, and all our classmates. So I would love to get a hold of that footage. I'm going to find out who that young lady is who has it. She discovered it in her father's archives of films. So anyway, then we got hired by Stan Herman, who was like the top realtor in Beverly Hills. And he lived in Truesdale Estates, which was a part of Beverly Hills, like up the hill from the flats. And for some reason, Desi wasn't able to perform that night, and so we got Keith Thibodeau to be our drummer. Keith was a fine actor, young actor, who played Little Ricky on the I Love Lucy show. Now, some folks still think that Little Ricky kid on TV was Desi, my friend, but it wasn't. It was Keith Thibodeau, the actor, who was an excellent drummer. So he filled in for Desi that night, and we got paid a whopping $100 for that gig, that was huge. This is 1964, 65. And once again, I thought, how are we going to split this evenly 3 ways? Anyway, always our predicament. But one of the more memorable ones for kids our age, was held at our friend Kathy Vandekamp's house. Now, we didn't really know Kathy. She and her friends went to another grammar school, Cathedral Chapel, in the Hancock Park area of town. Hancock Park area was a beautiful, and still is, part of town. It was, some consider it, the precursor to Beverly Hills. Beautiful mansions and fantastic home to a lot of movie stars back in the day. Anyway, we got wind that she was having a graduation party. This is 1965, 8th grade graduation party. And apparently, because I spoke with Kathy recently, I called her, I got her number somehow, and I said, we'd like to play at your party. We knew the Vandekamps were, a good, solid family. They were the Vandekamps of the bakery Vandekamps. And, we knew they were a good, solid Catholic family, if you will. And she at first wasn't sure whether I was for real or whether I was, a prank call, but it worked out. She said, well, how much do you charge? Her father wanted to know. And I said, well, I guess I hadn't honed my negotiating skills down very well. I said, oh, we just want to play for you. We're not going to charge you. So, of course, they hired us. We just heard it was going to be a great party. And so we went over there, and as Kathy recalls, we were dressed very nicely. We wore sport coats, and if you can believe, because we were 14, we couldn't drive. Dino showed up in a limo. But that was Dino, Oh, boy. So we didn't have that many songs in our repertoire. And so after about our 20-minute set, it's like we take a break, and it's like, what do we do now? So we decided, well, we'll just play all those songs all over again. And so that's what we did. And the kids were dancing, and it was fantastic. She held it in the lower part of her home. There was like a playroom or something like that, as I recall. But we probably did this song since, we had already done the Hollywood Palace and a lot of the local TV shows, Shindig and Ninth Street West, Lloyd Thaxton, and so we were a well-known entity in LA area, and we were just on the cusp of touring with the Beach Boys, opening for them at the Hollywood Bowl in the following month in July. This was June of 1965, and then the Ed Sullivan Show. But I'll bet we did this song. This one was on, this is our first single that went nowhere, but we did it on the Hollywood Palace, where Tony Martin was the host. I found out years later that it was written by Phil Everly, which makes perfect sense because it's got a great two-part harmony, which I can't do for you now because it's just me. But it goes like this. They say the blues went out of style, to cries, to act just like a child. Smile each day that we're apart, but I kind of feel I never will, since you broke my heart, since you broke my heart, would be the other part, the other logical part. And we probably did this song. You know where I can be found, don't you know I'll be waiting by the telephone, girl, while you're out running around. Yeah, I'm sitting home all alone. I'm a fool, just a silly fool, to be in love with you. I'm a fool. I'm a fool. I'm a fool. Yeah, that was our first and biggest hit of 1965, and it charted. It went top 20, and we got a lot of mileage out of that one. Anyway, in 1965, once again, I was hanging around with Carl Wilson. You know, we'd become pals. The Beach Boys had taken us to Bakersfield, Fresno, and Hawaii, along with the great Barbara, Baby I'm Yours, Lewis. And, you know, Carl and I were just palling around, and he invited me down to a session at Western Studio 2 where the Beach Boys were cutting the Party album. And I just happened to bring my my trusty harmonica with me. And I played harmonica on this song. I'll do a little bit for you. So happy when we were in love, high on a mountain of love. Mountain of love, mountain of love, you should be ashamed. You used to be a mountain of love, you just changed your name. Way down below there's 500,000 people, somewhere there's a church with a big tall steeple. Inside the church there's an altar filled with flowers. Windows are ringing, but it could have been ours. That's why I'm so lonely, my dream's gone above, high on a mountain of love, high on a mountain of love, high on a mountain of love. Yeah, check that out. The Beach Boys Party album. Mountain of Love. Me on harmonica. Who knew? Anyway, that was a blast. And boy, that album's been reissued and, you know, probably sounds fantastic these days. Anyway, moving right along. My friend Dina Martin, who was Dino's older sister, she was going to have a 18th birthday party in 1966. So, you know, somehow she managed to get Buffalo Springfield to play at her birthday party, and was like, wow. You know, I was a big fan. You know, they were considered an LA group, even though they were from, you know, different parts of the country, and Neil Young and Dewey Martin were from Canada, but boy, I thought they were just great. I couldn't believe that she got them to play at her birthday party. You remember this one. Something happened in here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. Think it's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. But sure enough, they were set up out by the swimming pool, you know, lengthwise, and, you know, no lights, no stage, no production, no nothing. Just amps on the ground, plug in and start to play. The good old days, you know, no monitors, you know, who needs a monitor? Anyway, it was a great party, and it went on and on for a while. It kept to the point where Dean Martin, who was upstairs, he did not attend the party, was listening, hearing all this down below. You know, he was on the second floor of the home, and he had an office in the bedroom. So he picks up the phone and calls Beverly Hills Police Department. Beverly Hills Police Department. My tongue got in the way of my eye teeth, and I couldn't see what I was saying. And he says to the officer who picked up, you know, there's a lot of noise going on over at the Martins' house. I wish you would go check that out for me, please. And the guy goes, we'll be right over, Mr. Martin. And he keeps going, you know. No, I'm an irate neighbor. Just calling to report a lot of noise at the Martins. We'll be right over, Mr. Martin. And as my friend Ricky Martin, Dina's younger brother, used to say in his act, you know, you know, what are you going to fool the Beverly Hills Police Department? I mean, how can you mistake Dean Martin's voice? Hey, well, yeah, you're going on over to the Martin's house there, and there's a lot of noise. Anyway, pretty funny. The cops showed up and shut the party down, and that was that. So that was one of the great parties that went astray. May I say one more time, if you are so inclined to hit the PayPal button or my new Venmo button, if you like the stories and the songs and you'd like to help me continue my efforts here, that'd be greatly appreciated. And a portion of the proceeds always goes to MusiCares, which helps musicians in times of need such as this. All right, that's that. Moving right along. Now, I get a call from Jeannie Martin, who is Dean's wife. It's his second wife, but who raised all his 7 children. She was incredible, and she called me up one day, and she says, you know, it's going to be Ricky's 21st birthday, September 20th of 1974. That was the date. And so you all get a time frame for when this was all happening. And she said, would you do something special for him? You know, like maybe write a song. So I said, sure, Jeannie, because it was like, when Jeannie Martin calls, you do, whatever. She's a great woman, rest her soul. And she did a lot for me. In fact, years later, I never knew the answer. When Dino, Desi, and I auditioned for Frank Sinatra, I asked her one day, we were all out in Palm Springs, this is just a few years ago, you know, how did that all come about? How did we get the audition with Frank Sinatra? She says, well, I called him. She says just like that, well, I called him. You know, so even Frank Sinatra, you know, Jeannie Martin says jump, you say how high, even Mr. Sinatra. So anyway, I wrote this special tune for Ricky for his big 21st birthday. It goes like this. This is your special day. Ricky, you're okay. This is your special one. We hope you have fun. They say it's your birthday. That's my birthday too, yeah. They say it's your birthday. We're gonna have a good time. Yeah, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. This is your special day. Ricky, you're okay. This is your special one. We hope you have fun. Now, of course, I didn't write, you know, the Beatles' birthday. That's, you know, but I segued it into the Ricky song, and it worked out really nicely. We had rehearsed it up in Dino's room before we did that, you know, a bunch of our friends that knew Ricky and that were at the party, and so we had a whole choir going, probably Desi on drums, as I recall. But anyway, this party turned out to be like the greatest party ever. I mean, they had the regular crowd, and when I say that, I mean people that would often be at the Martins' home for parties, people such as Tony Bennett and his wife Sandy, or the great songwriter Sammy Kahn and his wife Tita, or David Jansen, who was the fugitive on television, if you remember that series, and his beautiful wife Danny. And you remember this series, Ben Casey? Vince Edwards was the actor who played him. He would often be at the parties, and he was at this party as well. Interestingly enough, he sold his home in Stone Canyon to my sister and her husband Carl Wilson a number of years later. And then they in turn, a number of years later, sold it to the actor James Caan. Just a little trivia for you tonight. Oh gosh, the great Henry Mancini and his beautiful wife Ginny and their 2 beautiful daughters, Felice and Monica. And I don't think their brother Chris was there, but my gosh, great friends to this day. And Monica is a great singer in her own right, and Felice does wonderful work with the Mr. Holland Opus Foundation, which gives musical instruments to children in need. So wonderful cause, and I love those two girls dearly. Arthur Ashe was at this party. Not too shabby, right? But the party really heated up when Elizabeth Taylor walked in. Yeah. You know, I had no idea she was going to be there, and believe me, the room stops when she walks in the room. I happened to go upstairs, I don't know, to take a break from the action. I don't recall why. And I was coming down the stairway, the main stairway, and the front door opens, and it's just me standing there. The front door opens, and in walks John Lennon, Elton John, Kiki D, and John's friend May Pang. And there might have been somebody else, but they walk into this front door that, you know, I've seen, you know, people come in and out for years, but what a group. And I just stood there and stared, frankly. And Dino saw them from the other room, and he came in to greet them, and, you know, said hello, hello, hello. And John said, "Happy birthday." And Dino said, like, "No, it's my brother. It's my brother, Ricky. It's my brother." It was like that. So, I mean, the only person in that crowd that I really knew was Kiki D, because she had opened for the Beach Boys for a couple of tours that year. And so, you know, that was it. You guys remember Kiki from... I've got no trouble in my life, no foolish dreams that make me cry. And now they're worrying, I know I'll always get by. I got the music in me, I got the music in me, I got the music in me. I got the music in me, I got the music in me, I got the music in me. And then not too long after that, she went and recorded this one. Don't go breaking my heart. I won't go breaking your heart. Don't go breaking mine. Don't go breaking mine. I won't go breaking your heart. Don't go breaking mine. Don't go breaking mine. I won't go breaking your heart. With Elton, big hit. So anyway, I am just gobsmacked at all this stuff that's going on, and I'm trying to be cool, and I decided I'm going to sit down and take a little break, you know, from this action. And I'm sitting in the living room on the couch, and in walks this guy, a very slender, beautiful, double-breasted tan suit, very pale, and he comes walking in with his hands in his pocket like this, and he walks past me, and I say, "Guys, that is so great. Jeannie hired a guy that looks just like David Bowie, you know, a celebrity look-alike." And then it hit me, wait a minute, that is David Bowie. And, you know, this is what I'm saying about the greatest party ever. Well, you know, May Pang is a dear friend of mine, and we talked about this party. We've talked about it a number of times, and we've had fun discussing it over the years and filling in the details. And she said, number one, that John wanted to go to this party to meet Elizabeth Taylor. And number two, Elizabeth Taylor introduced David Bowie to John. They had never met. So for you music scholars, rock and roll historians, this is where Bowie and Lennon met for the first time. And then they went on to do great things. They recorded Fame. And wow, you know, like what a rock and roll moment, right? So anyway, I just did not have the nerve to walk up to John or even Elton, even though Beach Boys had opened for him at Wembley Stadium. But the best I could do was sort of, you know, they were actually standing and sitting in the area in which Dino Desi and I auditioned for Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, you know, 10 years earlier, you know. And I approached Kiki, who I knew from touring with the Beach Boys, opening for the Beach Boys. And I said, "Hi, Kiki, you know, how are you?" And she's sitting on the couch, and like John Lennon's standing right there, and Elton's over here. And that's the best I could do, was talk to Kiki and turn, if I had the presence of mind, would you introduce me to your friends, But I didn't. I was too gobsmacked, Anyway, a couple of moments in that party that I won't forget are when Brian Wilson was there, and he and Henry Mancini were talking up in the living room, and that image is just indelible. This two giants of the music industry just sitting there talking, standing there talking. I don't know what they were saying, but it was just like a moment for me. I mean, Henry Mancini, for you younger people, my gosh, when I went over to the family home in Holmby Hills for a party one time, I went up and saw his trophy case, which at the time he had more Grammys than anyone. And let me tell you, that was a sight to see. I think there were 12. And incredible. I mean, one of my favorites, though he wrote so many. Wow, what a song. What a giant of the industry. Anyway, that was that moment. And then I remember Brian, on the stereo they were playing, Stevie Wonder was married to an artist, a woman named Sarita, and she had a great song, Going Left, lead me to your right, lead me to what is right. And I remember Brian was like grooving to this song. It had a great feel to it. And Lennon's down there in the lower part of the living room, and he's looking back at Brian, and Brian's looking back at him, and it was just one of those moments, just kind of both eyeballing each other, not saying anything, but that was just one of those moments at that party that I shall not soon forget. Well, my sister and Carl Wilson, they moved out to Trancas Beach in 1976, and they decided they're going to throw a party too. This was during the time that Lorne Michaels was producing Saturday Night Live, and he also did a show for the Beach Boys, a TV special called It's Okay. And this is the same period of time, you may remember this song in this video where the Beach Boys are singing in the Double Rock Baptist Church. Back in time, just a rhythm and rhyme, Gregorian chants were a real big thing. They took that chant and added harmony. It was a different sound, but had the same meaning. I know, it took us a long time to go and build us a rock style. I know, but we can make it one more mile, because they're singing our same song. They're singing our same song. They're singing our same song, that same song. Anyway, Carl and Annie's home was built around the Moroccan Hilton, in the sense that it looked like it, and it was spectacular with spires and, oh gosh, the beautiful colors, the emerald greens and the whites, and oh my gosh, incredible. So I pull up in front of the house. It was on, the road, kind of a private road in Trancas. And I pull up, and in front of me, getting out of their car, are the McCartneys. There's Paul McCartney, gets out of the car, and his wife Linda, and the kids. It's like I cannot believe my eyes. Didn't know he was going to be there. And what struck me was that he was much taller than I envisioned him to be, and it was like wearing a blue Hawaiian shirt, and it was like a moment for me going into my sister's house to go to a party. Oh, it was Brian Wilson's 34th birthday in 1976, in June of 1976. So, of course, it was significant that he was there for that reason. And then in front of Paul was Marilyn Wilson, Brian's first wife, mother to Carney and Wendy. Thank you very much. And so we kind of all walked in together, and I was following, and my sister was talking with Paul. Paul's back is to me, and I'm trying to signal my sister, introduce me. Will you introduce me to him? So finally, at just the right moment, she says to him, have you ever met my brother? And he says, I don't know if I want to. So I said a very clumsy something like, thanks for all the music. Thank you so much for the great music. Something like that. But anyway, that was a great moment for me. It was quite the party, and I mean, it was really swinging. All the Beach Boys were there, all the kids, and there's footage of this, the It's Okay special. You can see all of this, what I'm talking about. But there's this one moment where all of a sudden we look over, and there's a couple of highway patrol men there, in full uniform, 2 CHPs, in the light brown outfits, and then it's like, what are they doing here, And we look closely, and it's Belushi and Aykroyd. You remember that scene where they arrest Brian and they drag him off to the beach and force him to surf? Anyway, that was a moment. Oh, and just as a little aside, if you look at that TV special, you'll see Paul putting on this, he'd fashioned a cardboard thing, like a mask that he put over himself, because he didn't know that there was going to be a film crew there, so he was not that pleased about that. And so, I don't know, Carl told me that, so I know that as a fact. So anyway, I always thought that was an interesting way for him to sort of hide from the cameras. I don't know. But anyway, I usually do 30-minute segments. This segment is run a little bit long, but I think it was worth it. I hope you enjoyed it. I got to sign off now, though. So thank you so much for stopping by and having a little fun with me. And if you like the show, send in your comments. I see that they're going, across the screen. I can't read them and answer you at the same time. So thank you so much. And if you'd like to show support for me in this effort, do hit the PayPal link or the Venmo link and send in whatever you can, whenever you can, as often as you can. And I would certainly appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And I'm going to leave you with my closing number. Positivity every day. Positivity in every way. Positivity is what I need. Positivity, yes indeed. Positivity throughout the day. Positivity, that's what I say. Well, positivity is my friend. Positivity through thick and thin. Here we go. Positivity is good for my soul. Positivity for young and old. Positivity for everyone. Positivity, we've just begun. All right, everybody, let's stay positive. Thank you for stopping by. I wish only the greatest things that life can bring you. See you next time. Good night.